Okay, that's better. Yeah, hello YouTube. It's been a while. My primary camera with a good lens on it has been broken, and I finally got the parts to repair it. But I'm using a different backup camera, and I haven't done a video in a while, so I thought I'd just walk through the garden and show you. It's first part of July, and this is the garlic. Some of it's been cultivated, some of it's volunteer, and you can see this large one right here. 2 leaves down here have died. 1 leaf here, 2 more leaves are starting to turn brown. That one back there is almost all brown. I probably should dig those 2 up. You don't want the garlics to do like an onion where you let them go all brown. You wait for about half the leaves to turn brown, and I'm guessing in about another week we'll be ready to dig these up. Of course, not all of them. This one here, just one leaf down there has turned brown, so it's going to take a little longer than the others. But like I'm saying, week or 2, definitely by 2. Onions, yeah, it's been a weird year for onions. They've all been kind of falling over like this. And you see, they're just falling into a tangle. They're not growing straight up like most onions do. There's a lot of bent over and falling over fronds on these. But they seem to be doing okay, and I keep them watered. And you can see I've got down here, this is one of the biggest onions I've ever grown. And I've got a few more just like it. On the other hand, not too far away, small onion right here. Just because the other onions are growing big doesn't mean all of them do. There's always quite a bit of variability, and you can see down right in here, maybe leaf turning brown. And if we look around here, we see a few more leaves turning brown. Unlike the garlics, where you don't want all the leaves to turn brown, you want the onions just completely turning brown. Now, we've been having some very, very mild weather with some cool nights. Very, very unsummer-like weather. And that may be extending the growing season for the onions, for all I know. We're going to find out for sure. When I harvest these, I'll let you know. My cattle panel trellis seems to have been a success. You can see the sweet peas growing up this thing. Let me just come inside of the thing, and I'll show you that I can barely reach the top. I'm 6 feet tall, and I just barely reach the top, and I can't even pick that sweet pea. Look, I can't even reach those sweet peas up there to pick them. They're so high up. And look at this tangle of pole beans growing up this pole. And you saw earlier there was a tangle of pole beans all over the top of this trellis. And all these pole beans. And we're just now starting to get some blossoms, so I'm expecting some beans. I got a neighbor who has pole beans that are about 3 weeks ahead of mine, and they got some really big beans on them, and she said she's already picked a few. I've had to put this stick inside the tomato cage here. This is not a tomato, it is my lemon cucumber, and despite the ants on it, I am getting lemon cucumbers. And I have not picked any yet, but they're growing. And there is a second lemon cucumber over here, which got the original one I put in there died. That's a replacement, so it's a little bit behind the other one. Swiss chard with a leaf miner problem. And with leaf miners, you just do this. You just squeeze your way along the damage, and you'll eventually squish the larvae that's in there. But you got to come out daily to check for and take care of leaf miners. Here's another one. They're kind of small at first, and so they do these little tiny trails like this. But if you leave them alone, they'll get bigger, and they'll chew up a whole area like that. Since there's very little damage on the leaves, leave the leaf in place once you kill the larvae. A spinach. So the original planting of spinach bolted, was pulled up, and I put a new spinach start in there. I've also got a couple of lettuces. These were held in their starter pots for a week or so after I planted out this lettuce, and so that's gonna hopefully spread out the availability of lettuce. You can see the original lettuces that were here. I've cut them off. That one I had to compost because it was bolted. This one was just starting to bolt, and so it's in the refrigerator. Going to provide us lettuce for a little while, and hopefully we won't have to go too long without lettuce before this one, or that one are ready. And of course the New Zealand spinach is just suddenly just spreading out all over everything. I thought we took care of the blossom end rot here, but apparently not. Gonna have to put some more calcium in the soil. Although the blossom end rot on this one seems to be taken care of. And this one as well. So I've already gotten a couple of yellow, and there's one with blossom end rot. I need to get rid of it. I've got a couple of yellow squash already. I've also got several zucchinis, and here's some more, and it looks like I've still got some blossom end rot there to deal with. So again, more calcium usually solves that problem. My peppers are still very small. Usually I'm picking the first few eggplants, and the peppers are starting to come in by now. But because it's been so cool, they've just been really stunted in their growth. The purple sage needs to be trimmed. And we do have some tomatoes. That's an early grow. I'm trying to do a better job of trimming. Here you can see I cut it loose, but I didn't take it off. Trimming the suckers off. Here's a sucker that I need to pull off. So yeah, I've been trying to do better at trimming the suckers off, and unlike the wild mess that I usually have, this I did leave this sucker to grow here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 main stems coming in, and then there's this one. This one was a sucker that was forced to grow downward, and so I didn't see it. Then it did a U-turn, and it started coming up outside the cage, and so I've got them tied up so it doesn't fall over, because you see there are blossoms on it, and it's going to be heavy with fruit. The empty tomato cage is in honor of the plant that got a virus and died and had to be cut away. It's giving plenty of room for the nasturtiums to scrabble around the ground, though. Although there's no excuse for the weeds back there. And moving right along, we got another tomato plant again, trying to do my best to keep it trimmed. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 major stems basically growing. And see, here's the thing. See this right here? See this thing right here growing out of the armpit? This is the main stem right here. This is a branch that has leaves, and this thing growing out of the armpit of the branch is a sucker, and it will grow into another main stem, which is why if you get a lot of these main stems, you end up with this really, really bushy plant, and it's all out of control. And it only took me, 9 years to figure this out? So I'm being a little more deliberate about the trimming of these suckers. He says is every time he comes out here, he finds another one that needs to be trimmed off. I ran up the plant today, just following every single stem, just going up the stem looking for the suckers, and yet there I just found another one. I've got a small one here, but I'm not going to worry about that. But anyways, again, you see this one, 1, 2, 3, 4 major shoots coming up, 4 major stems. Same thing here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a stem that I missed here that's growing outside. Once it's about this high, once it's got about this high, I'll tie it back to the top of the tomato cage here. You've got to support the ones that end up outside. And you see down here, you see the leaf curl? This is what happens when you have cool nights. The tomatoes are really tropical plants, and they don't like growing in the northern climates. And so when you have cool nights that are down in the 50s, they curl up like this. It's not that it's unhealthy for the plant, it just looks weird. But then you see the other leaves are just fine. Another purple sage that was as wild as the other one, but has been trimmed back. And I'll trim those, I'll deadhead these blossoms off now that they're gone. Leave the purple sage blooming as long as possible for the bees. This tomato plant, let me back up. You compare that tomato plant to this one, and this one's not doing as well as those, but it's doesn't have as many major branches on it. You can see the bottom part is really bushy, but the third and fourth major branches you can see. Actually, I got a fifth one. I let a sucker grow. So I've got a branch here, and then a third one here, and then there's 2 more right here. But you see, I let them grow later. The other tomatoes have their major branches starting further down, like down here, as opposed to up here. So we'll see how this ends up. It's also shorter. It's in a somewhat shaded location. There's more sun over there than over here because we have a tree overhead. Beans. Got green beans here. These are bush beans. And you see we're actually getting a few beans and lots of blossoms. So we're about a week or so away from doing some real picking there. But then you see this one right here. This is odd. I don't know if you can see this right here. This is definitely a bush bean, but it's reverted and discovered its vining habit. And I don't know what to do about it. I accidentally planted these 2 pole beans, grabbed the wrong packet to fill in after I had some germination failure and had a few holes in the bed. And then I discovered, oops, I planted the wrong bean after they'd sprouted. So I just took a couple poles, leaned them up against the fence, and give them something to climb on. But you see, they're not as far along as the beans that are on the trellis. Carrots. Carrots are doing well. They're just growing along. They've got at least another 3 weeks. At the end of July or so, I'll pull them all up and get the next fall planting going. Get the next crop of carrots. We have a little pollinator here buzzing around, visiting the oregano. This is the wild oregano that's growing in the yard, and I just leave it to grow because you can see it's basically bee friendly. Where's that bee? She's right over here somewhere. There she is, right there on the flower. Anyways, honeybees, very docile. Don't have to get worried about them if you see them. But this oregano I've cut back. We did harvest that. It's above the refrigerator right now drying. And our basil is definitely kind of lagging for the season. I've got 2 volunteers in here. Came up after the 3 that I planted. And the English thyme, which used to be down with the oregano, is now up here, and the rosemary. So that is a walkthrough through the garden, and the only thing we skipped over was the strawberries, which have, as you can see, I have the bird net pulled back. Although there is a few strawberries in here. There's a very nice one over there. Look at that right there. See them? I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to pick that strawberry. You see I've got runners coming out, and a couple of them here, and down there. I'm encouraging them to take root and establish them in the pyramid to replace some of the plants that have run their course. Most of these plants, the plants that have been in here the longest, have been in here 5 years and are pretty much at the end of their productive life, and so I'm already in the process of replacing some of the plants. As their production lags, I pull them out and then replace them with a new plant from a runner. Zero cost effort to keep your strawberries going. So I believe that is the garden, and that will have to do for a YouTube video. Anyways, comments, questions, put them below. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. It'll help with the algorithm. Share it if you know someone who would like it. Thanks for watching.